Well, welcome, AI Explorers. Our guest today is Rosario Parlanti, a Brooklyn based entrepreneur, investor, and real estate pro who's exploring past boundaries in tech and property. He's the founder of Cathedral Capital, backing bold startups in AI, blockchain, and property tech, and he's hands on with cutting edge projects like Follow Network and Spore Fund. With a background in law, cloud infrastructure, and real estate, Rosario brings serious depth, and he's just as fierce off the clock, training in BJJ and investing in the creator economy. Let's explore with him. Fantastic
Well,
to meet you, Rosario.
yeah. And where are you from?
It's a pleasure is all mine. Long Island, New York.
Long Island, New York. Awesome. We're Georgia boys.
Nice, nice. I haven't been down south in a while, but I look forward to going to back to it one day.
Yeah, fantastic.
Looking at your bio, I was actually getting excited because you touch on real estate, which is kind of Warren's domain. So he does graphic design for real estate. You're a lawyer?
Yes, I'm actually, I practiced landlord-tenant litigation for about 10 years. I pivoted during COVID to a real estate transactional work. So, and the market has been terrible for the past few years. So I'm pretty much in the midst of doing another pivot.
Well, it felt like you had a touch point with each of us on like kind of our different careers and different things, but way to pivot and good luck.
Yes, I'm going to need it.
Is AI the new pivot?
I actually was more into crypto, going back into during the last financial crisis. I graduated law school in 2009, which was a tough time to graduate law school. So I went with the easy work, which in New York City is landlord-tenant litigation. It's like something that no attorney wants to do. But that's when Bitcoin came around and all these cryptocurrencies started doing the ICOs. So I was more into crypto for the past 15 years. And then AI kind of came in, and I love AI. I think it's, I haven't been this excited since, in high school when the internet came around, and I got the AOL disk in the mail and plugged it in, and I was waiting for the modem to connect. So
Yeah.
my passions are kind of interconnecting with AI, and I think the crypto worlds kind of give the AI a great product market fit. So that's kind of my new niche, is how AI intersects with crypto.
Very cool.
Fascinating.
Very cool. How do they intersect?
For example, I've been working with this company that I invested in called Follow Network. And that's one of the reasons I reached out to you guys, is because they started about 5 years ago, where how like Bitcoin has their miners, and by providing computation, they get provided a certain Bitcoin, right? Or a chance to get Bitcoin, really. So Fala came around as saying, hey, we're going to incentivize people to provide computation, secure computation based on T technology. And in exchange for them to provide this computation, we're going to give them our token, which is the Fala token. So they've been doing that for the past few years. And now, ever since AI has came around, typical consumers use AI through like ChatGPT and through these apps out there, but it's kind of trending towards AI agents, and that's where I see the future going with AI. Meaning, you have a task, right? So, for example, in real estate, I would task my AI agent to search for listings of potential opportunities to purchase, let's say single-family homes in Florida. I would give the AI agent a criteria, and it would provide, let's say, a spreadsheet. And then I would look at the spreadsheet and then do a deeper analysis onto potential, purchasing opportunities. So once you start giving these AI agents agency, for the lack of a better word, you need to provide it tools as well on accessing these platforms that are out there, Zillow, any other proprietary software out there. And eventually you're going to need to give it finances and funds to log in and to purchase these platforms or purchase anything that you are given the task to do so. And I do think credit cards, we're not there yet. I don't think you want to give your AI agent a credit card, but you can give it certain crypto tokens, and which will then, start utilizing on its own. So that's where I kind of see AI agents going. And that one, I foresee a lot of issues and problems, but I also foresee a lot of opportunities as well.
Jacob and I are both very excited about AI and what it brings. And like you've said, you were excited with the internet and getting your AOL disk. And I remember those days as well. And it's so surprising to me that individuals who have lived through the explosion of the internet are not as on board as I thought they would be for AI. This is going to be more impactful, I think, than the internet itself. And as you're saying, the AI agents getting those little autonomous programs out there to do some of the work for you, so you don't have to spend your time booking that vacation and getting those things done, will make life a lot more interesting and easier, I see. Your thoughts?
100%. It's like when I first got my first assistant, right? I was going to the post office myself. I was doing my own banking. I was doing my phone calls for basic opening up telephone lines, et cetera, et cetera. Once you have an assistant and you can start delegating that basic work, it just opened yourself up to do so much more. So that's where I see AI agents really coming in. It's your personal assistant. And you might have multiple AI agents for different, tasks, right? You might have an AI agent for marketing or AI agent to help you find investment opportunities. We still haven't transgressed to the physical world where you can send an AI agent to do your laundry or anything like that. Not yet. But for basic, looking for the cheapest product out there where you need 1,000, let's say you need it to buy 100 refrigerators for some reason for your business, right? Something that you delegated to an employee, you could delegate it to your AI agent that might do that job a lot better, because it will just go out into the internet. It will start, requesting quotes from different vendors, and you could really see that it does the task in the way you want it to do the task. So as a productivity amplifier, 100%, it's going to be a game changer.
Now, Jacob mentioned that we both have connections to you in law and in real estate. So I'm really fascinated by how AI is impacting real estate, and I've given a number of presentations to various real estate professional groups and the like about AI, and it's been interesting. What in your experience, who are the people that are really jumping on with AI, and who are those that are not? Because for me, the real estate brokers, they're kind of half and half. Some are like excited for it, and others are like, I don't know about that.
I think the brokerage business is still a people first business. So their network is their biggest asset, right? Having that trust and the relationships and whatnot. And I think that is kind of protected from any changes that AI is going to bring. You want that person, that human, to call, to do lunch with, provide you with the best opportunities. If you have any questions, they're going to answer it. AI, I think, is more impactful on the investment side. So as an investor, you want the greatest opportunity in front of you that's within your capacity. So if you are a landlord, a multifamily, investor, you could continue on and build that network of brokers, but also start, utilizing AI to see what is the best investment for you. And I think it's two different fields. So real estate is obviously a broad field. Real estate, being a transactional attorney, is broad in itself as well. And I use AI to help my legal practice all the time. If I have to do some research, if I have to do some due diligence, I utilize AI. But on the brokerage side, I think it's at this point still protected for the foreseeable future.
I think it's interesting to think about different segments that are protected against AI versus that are going to succumb to it quickly, right? And so people often think that you just mentioned the brokerage side, right? So that's built on relationships. I don't think litigators are going anywhere, even though, AI can pass every state bar and those kinds of things. What do you think? You mentioned the relationships in the brokerage, but when people think about AI agents and they think about, well, is my job going to be around in 6 months kind of thing? And so what makes a job kind of AI proof today? Not necessarily tomorrow, because I think that the powers of AI will grow. But what do you think, what qualities of a job make it a little more safe, I guess, for now? What do you think?
Off the top of my head, I would say any consumer-facing job where you're meeting with the clients directly, right? For example, the real estate broker, or if you're an attorney, people want to speak to a human, right? They don't want to speak to an AI agent. They might cross-reference you and check your work on using AI. But when it comes to having that personal connection, AI is not going to replace, right? So anything that's consumer facing where people want to have that human element to it, I think so far it will be protected. Now, that's not saying that jobs will not be impacted. For example, I still think teaching will have that human element where you have one teacher and multiple students, but that teacher will be able to do so much more than what they were able to do in the past, right? Utilizing AI tools. So there might be a diminished demand for certain jobs, but not complete elimination. That would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, I think tutoring potentially might be more impacted than, say, like classroom teaching. Just, I know that in my usage and my kids, the way they use it, I'm not sure that if they can get answers from ChatGPT, I don't know if they need, to hire a tutor. So, I wanted to ask you how you use, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, yes, because I was in the car with the kids, and my daughter asked me a question, and I knew the answer, but I was like, why don't you ask AI, right? Because everyone has their cell phones, and I encourage them to download ChatGPT. And they're like, oh, well, why do you always want us to use AI? Why do you always want us to use AI? Because I want them to start learning how to utilize those tools, which are not going anywhere.
Wise.
And I don't see the detriment in switching from Google searching to using AI, because using AI is almost like a certain skill that's going to become more and more valuable. And it's one of those, like, why ask me? I could give you the answer, but my answer might be wrong. Ask AI, and if you don't believe the AI, ask another AI, or cross-reference into your own Google searches. But it was just funny because that conversation just happened yesterday on Memorial Day. So yeah, it might replace tutoring, but I think it's going to be deeper than that. I think kids are going to grow up with AI, and the sooner they are more comfortable with it and see its power, I think it will better prepare for them in the world once they graduate school.
Yeah, I agree. My follow-up for you is how you use it in your law practice, because as you know, like, it can be controversial because I just read another one this weekend where another lawyer put fake cases in a brief, and the judge had to chew them out for using fake cases that AI had generated, right? And it just kind of blows my mind, because it's not AI that's causing this to happen. Like, a junior associate can make up fake citations and fake cases just as well as an AI can, but they're just less likely to do it, right? And so it just makes me wonder, like, the prevalence of lawyers not checking their cases must be higher than we originally thought. It's only being caught because it doesn't match well, if we're being honest, right? And so, I think if you searched all of the case filings, you would find people using cases to support theories that aren't actually supported by that case, but those cases are real because a human knows how to cite a real case. So that's a whole other topic. My point is, law and using AI in law tends to be controversial, right? We talk about search, and when you've got like a website that is a your money, your life site, like a YMYL, Google applies a higher degree of scrutiny to that website. We haven't got something like that in AI itself, but surely those who use it in these professions should be a little more cautious. But what are your thoughts? How do you use AI in your law practice? Kind of where do you land?
Well, if I was a litigator, I wouldn't use ChatGPT for my practice, right? LexisNexis, all these legal specific websites are going to start incorporating AI, where you can ask, the AI, the platform, here's my summons a complaint, can I draft an answer, and make sure the cases are cited. And there is a certain degree of technical expertise that these legal specific platforms can provide. So it's more of not using the general LLMs to assist you as an attorney. You would really need to have a specific AI agent that has been trained in United States law, your state jurisdiction.
Can I butt in on that actually? So
Go ahead.
Lexis has a chat now, right? You can log in and use their chat, but it's really slow. I'm not convinced that it's anything other than just Alexa's skin on top of ChatGPT, or you know what I mean? Like, I'm not convinced that they've done the hard work of training it to be any better than using ChatGPT would. I mean, I think it is definitely linked to their database of materials, and so it's less likely to hallucinate because it's got that there, but I don't think that makes it more reliable. What do you think?
Do you think they have the capacity to fix that and progress when it comes to?
I think they will eventually. I think they will eventually due to outside pressure, but I think Lexis and Westlaw have such a monopoly on the market that it's not like they're, as soon as the first judge says, no more Chat GPT in my courtroom, Lexis and Westlaw will be like, see, I told you, but I don't think they're like pushing the envelope in any way.
So then it's a matter of them getting disrupted, right? As an attorney, you're always responsible for your work, right? So you're supposed to review, the work even your paralegals provide you and make sure those cases are correct.
Or junior associates, yeah.
So are we there yet? Maybe not. But can I see us being there? They're never going to relieve the attorney of the responsibility of the finished product because they always want someone to blame, right? They can't blame an AI agent. You can't just shrug your shoulders. I'm sorry, my AI agent messed up. You have to always take responsibility. Which is actually brings me to a separate topic because as another interest I have that I've been kind of exploring, and maybe you could give me your input, is as we give these AI agents more autonomy and more responsibility. And Warren, I think you might have a connection as well when it comes to real estate. Every time you purchase a property, or one of my clients purchase a property, I tend to create an LLC, right? And that limits their liability. If something goes wrong on that property, it doesn't touch your personal assets or assets in your your real estate portfolio. So one concept I've been exploring is creating these LLCs or legal structures for AI agents, right? Because I'm imagining a world where you're giving your AI agent instructions, just like you would give an employee instructions, but you don't have direct control, right? You're assuming that it's going to comply with all laws and regulations, but what if it doesn't, right? So what are you going to do to protect yourself legally from the actions of your AI agent as they become more powerful and you start delegating more and more to them? Because obviously, if you have an employee and you send your employee on a task or an errand, even if it's driving to the courthouse to pick up a file and they get into a car accident, you're also responsible. You start assuming liability for each employee you have and the task that you give them. So I'm actually, starting to explore how AI agents and legal protection start intersecting as well. Are people going to start creating LLCs for the AI agents? Are AI agents going to create their own LLCs and undertake that task themselves? It starts becoming interesting.
Yeah, that is an interesting question, and I'm really That is fascinating. Thinking about it now, I could see that happening where AI agents will create their own LLCs, and then, with the oversight of that person who's instructing them all, potentially. And I'm also seeing like opportunities for insurance. I see insurance coming in on that too, and going, oh, we'll safeguard your, if your AI does something crazy, we'll have some insurance for AI. Yeah. So that's gonna be really interesting.
Yeah. I've thought about the insurance aspect as well. But how do you quantify that, right? Because insurance
Right.
is about quantifying the risk. So I don't think we're there yet. Maybe in the next 5 years, I think that person that creates the insurance for AI agents is going to be a billionaire. But he would need to crack that code on how to quantify that risk. Whereas, LLCs are basic. It's kind of like, hey, this is just one first step that you can undertake to protect yourself, especially as these AI agents become more powerful and more powerful. You want to limit your risk on what it does on your behalf.
We had a gentleman several months back on our cast here, and Alec, and he was in cybersecurity and talked a lot about making sure that data was not passed around the organization freely. So an example he gave, the AI was able to see everybody's salary, and so everybody could see it, and that wasn't really proprietary for that organization. So he talked a little bit about that. But I see what you're talking about with the trying to protect the individuals that are behind the AI, and then with the LLCs. I think that's a fascinating concept. I'm going to think about that a lot more and look into that. That's really cool.
If you guys want to do our startup together and then tackle that, count me in, because I think there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, for sure. But I really also like going back a little bit, how you are telling your children the same kind of thing that Jacob and I are doing with our kids. My son, when we first started experimenting with AI, my son was in high school, and he was working on a paper, and he was struggling for the last paragraph for this conclusion. And I'm like, just let AI write it. And he's like, no, Dad, that's cheating. And I was like, no, it's not. You've spent 3 hours working on that paper. You've got it done. We just feed the paper to AI and ask it a quick question, and it'll spit out a paragraph, and then we edit it, and then it's yours. And trying to convince him that it wasn't cheating was really funny. But I appraise you for getting your kids on board now, because it is definitely the tool of the future. Just like when I was in school, calculators weren't allowed, but now calculators are allowed. They're on every device that you can find. Even the internet is allowed in schools, when that wasn't allowed initially. So why teaching and the teaching profession as well is so reticent to allow these things in and educate our kids, who in the next 5 years this is going to be their work.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Need to know how to use these tools. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, and then I think what you said, the key word is edit, right? Because once you edit something, you kind of take ownership of it, right? So I think the risk is with the children over relying on AI, pressing print and submitting the homework, or sending via email when they haven't read what they submitted, right? So I think that's the risk. So as long as you oversee the AI, right? And you oversee the work that it produces, and you make the changes that you think are the right changes to make, that's when it should be allowed and it should be encouraged. What should be discouraged is just kind of willy-nilly pressing the button, submitting it. Because at that point, what have you done? What have you learned? If you get questioned on the product, are you able to answer the questions, right? So that's the tricky part. But AI is going to be everywhere. And I think the sooner you're able to embrace it and utilize it, I was always a good student in English. I was a terrible math student. So when I first started getting fascinated with computers, I tried to learn how to code, and I couldn't do it. It just wasn't, I would reach a certain level, and then it would be over reliant on math, and I would get discouraged and move on. Whereas now with ChatGPT and all these other AI agents, having that strong English background is actually an asset for me now, where I could speak or type in proper English and learn how to ask the right questions and tease the information out. I don't need to, know how to code. I could have a conversation with the AI and it would produce the results that I want. So certain skills are in demand that weren't in demand and things are changing and progressing. But I think that's a positive.
Yeah, that was the fascinating thing as ChatGPT and other other AI platforms like Midjourney and a couple of others came out to the public. I found that it was the people, the English majors, the writers, the copywriters that I knew that were excelling with AI. We had a guest of ours, Sherry Horowitz, and she does a lot of stuff with Midjourney, and she's a poet, a literature student, an English major, that kind of thing. And her results with AI were leaps and bounds ahead of everybody. And she still posts such amazing work because of her understanding of what language means in a large language model.
Yeah. And even being comfortable with language, right? Comfortable in using the words and writing longer sentences. With the prompts, if your prompts are too short, the AI is not gonna have a clue. It could guess what you want, but the more you give it, the more it knows where to start, providing what you're seeking.
Yeah, speak to that a little, because I think it's interesting. A lot of people, so we've touched on a couple of threads here, which is the idea that if I can always tell when somebody sends me something made with AI in my office, because it's like you said, that high school student that just takes the output and sends it on, doesn't edit it, right? And so there is a thinking component required. Like, you've got to do the thinking for the AI to generate the right kind of output. But then you also just said now, like, you've got to give it a longer prompt. You've got to give it more details. What have you found as you've kind of delved into giving it specificity, length? Talk about that.
Yeah. So if you have certain thing in mind, the more explicit you are in the initial prompt, the better it is. But also kind of giving it back and forth. So my two favorite AI agents is ChatGPT and I don't know, have you guys heard of Manus AI?
I have.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of like my other go-to AI agent. And it would ask you after the initial prompt, hey, can you clarify on A, B, and C, D for me, right? It kind of pushes back on what your intent is. And I appreciate that effort. I was like, yes, this is what I meant in this aspect. This is what I meant. And then it'll take a few seconds and try to provide what the result that you're seeking. So I also see it, even if you don't have your initial prompt correct, if it's not, it might be a paragraph long, and if the AI doesn't get it, in the first try, you're almost having a conversation with it, and trying to lead it to the right way that you want it to go. But yeah, I think the more explicit you are, adjectives are always good. Sending examples, I think, has had benefited me, but having that back and forth is also crucial, I believe.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed. There have been a few moments where I've had more of that back and forth conversation type interaction, where I'm brainstorming with it and generating ideas. So I think you're absolutely correct on that. Having that conversation, people, like you're saying, people are getting a little bit lazy, where they're like, "Oh, it didn't get me what I wanted. This is trash," and then they just move on. Where they should have that conversation with it and see what the results are and how they can be improved, rather than just I'm done. It didn't work like everybody's saying. It's just all hype.
People have had bad experience with Siri, right? And even with your Amazon Echo. I'm not sure if you guys have these devices at home.
Yep.
But that was the first, I guess, my first experience with AI, right? When you ask Siri a question and it will just give you like gibberish or not what you're seeking. You're just like, this is useless. And even Amazon hasn't able to get it right. So people are dissuaded just based on that experience.
Yeah.
But with the progress that the technology has been making in this past few, couple of years, you need, people starting to see the potential. And the more curious and the more like, how do you say, forward-thinking people are really trying to extract information and see the potential in the AI. But I think for your typical layperson, it's going to be more vocal interaction with the AI and not necessarily in front of a computer. And I think the phone and the speakers in your home, like the Amazon Echoes and whatnot, are going to be the future as well. Just having that verbal conversation with your AI agent. And that also opens up privacy risk, right? Because now the
Great
AI
time to be a
agents
privacy
are start
lawyer.
Yes. Because now, guess what? ChatGPT is starting to remember everything you told it, right? Since day one, it's starting to build that memory. And there's a game that it's called a game. Ask your ChatGPT to create a CIA profile for you, of you, and it's scary because now all these conversations you've been having with your AI agent for the past couple of years, all of a sudden, like, wow, the AI agent knows me,
I just read an article. Yeah. I just read an article over the weekend where somebody looked into the data that their Amazon Echo has on them. And
oh yeah, wow.
And they had put an Echo in their child's bedroom. And so they learned all sorts of stuff about their child that they didn't even know because of stuff their child had been asking their Echo. And yeah, it's mind blowing. But like you said, the CIA profile, like it goes in depth. And I was shocked they were sharing so much in this news thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, you talk about its memory and maintaining things. A couple weeks ago, I was on a lark. I was like, "Hey, ChatGPT, give me some Chuck Norris jokes," and so it gave me a couple, and then it was like, "Would you like some Chuck Norris jokes about real estate, about marketing, or about Dungeons and Dragons?" And because those are the things that are involved in my ChatGPT threads, and I was like, yeah, give me the real estate ones. And they were fantastic.
That's funny.
I've had a situation where I would have to, actually ask the ChatGPT to delete that knowledge from me. And it was like, it was a totally random. I asked the question like, oh, what does it take to be a DJ, with in Europe or something random, out of curiosity. So now, OpenAI thinks I want to become a DJ. And then it's like, no, like, please delete that like knowledge from your knowledge base because, it was just a random question I asked it. And I don't want it to start, filtering and leaking into my future answers from it. So it's going to be an issue. And the more knowledge and information we give our AI agents, it's going to be an issue, I think. So that's why privacy has to be key. Encryption has to be key. Are we going to trust OpenAI to have all this information about us? What if the government, wants to access that data? Are they just going to willy-nilly, give it without a subpoena? These are all questions that people should start thinking about as well. How secure, how private do you want your AI agent to be? How much do you want your AI agent to know about you or your family? Because I'm sure we all had the experience where we would have a conversation with a spouse or a friend, and next time we log into Instagram, all of a sudden you're seeing advertisements for that one conversation you had. So it's going to
happened this last week, in fact.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens to me all the time. It will be just a random, like, hey, we haven't been to Disney a while, and all of a sudden I'm like getting Disney advertisements on my social media feeds.
Even when you haven't searched anything, which makes they're
no.
Do your phone speaker even when it's off, which they say doesn't happen, but we all know it does. It's scary.
And they actually say, oh, our algorithms are so good that's why you see that. Like, no, it's not your algorithms.
The day after we talk about it, doubtful, right?
Exactly. They're
30 minutes.
they're definitely listening. So that's gonna be an issue.
So one of my questions, follow-ups for you, you mentioned using ChatGPT as a skill. You're encouraging your children to develop it by like telling them, hey, why don't you ask an AI, right? Like why not see how it does? And I've felt this way too, like in the past with searching, like even just conducting Google searches, that's a skill. So, some people know how to research better online than others. And so for anyone who's listening, what is the best way to develop that skill? Because even though most of the people we've talked to on this podcast, they discover it and they're like, we're a fish in water, let's go swimming, right? But there are some people who use ChatGPT or another AI model their first time, and they're like, this is useless. What would you tell them? How could they begin to use it to start, maximizing what they get out of a chat tool?
My initial answer would be just jump into the pool, right? Just go in there and play with it, right? Don't see it as a tool yet. See it as a toy. So if you have some, first just ask a random question, do what I do. And in the end of the day, you have a thought in your head and then just type it.
Ask about being a DJ in Europe. Go ahead.
Exactly. Or, just, are DJs, or is DJs a good profession these days, or, what is a DJ, and just start playing around that way. And it's a rabbit hole and just go to the rabbit hole, just follow wherever path it leads you. And once you go past that stage, you could start saying, okay, I'm starting to see how this works. This is how I'm going to fine tune my prompts and really try to extract information from it that I really want. But I think the first step is just playing with it, just having a non-serious attitude towards it and trying to see what its capabilities are. And also even using different tools. If ChatGPT is not the tool for you, or you're not, getting exactly what you want out of it, there's other AI, tools out there, and then maybe that will fit you better or give you the response. I think ever since Grok came out, a lot of people are starting to use Grok because it's more of a playful nature in some ways, and people, gravitate towards that playful nature. And then there's other tools that are more research based that will provide, links and information where you could explore deeper to it. But, as a beginner, just start playing around with it. One thing that, what fascinated me other than Midjourney was Suno. I don't know if you guys heard of Suno, the music creation AI.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I was totally fascinated with it, and I was like, wow, I could actually make some music using AI. And it would take numerous iterations, and, it would take a while to get the song that I want. And then eventually I would, determine that, to create my lyrics, ChatGPT would be better at creating the lyrics. I would copy and paste the lyrics that I like, plug it into, and you start using these AI agents, different AI agents for different things. And then,
right.
Exactly. And then putting it all into one pot and then stirring the pot and see what comes out. So that's how I started going, utilizing the tools. But everyone else might be different and just stick with one platform. But I do see the differences between the LLMs and the models and whatnot. So you kind of have to eventually gravitate to being more of a chef, rather than a specific, trade or whatnot.
I like that. The vision of being a chef with AI. I think that's fascinating. So you mentioned Suno. I'm curious, what type of music did you have Suno create for you?
So the first few songs, and I'll share it to you via email if you really
your first European DJ hit.
No.
Yeah.
My wife plays tennis, and I always tease her because she loves playing tennis. She plays so much of it. So I had Suno create me a song about her falling in love with tennis and falling out of love with her husband. And then it was more of teasing her. And it came out pretty well. It was like, wow, this is pretty good. Like, it really gets, the emotion into it. And it was
captures exactly how you feel and everything.
Feeling neglected at home as she goes and plays tennis with her friends. But
we'll have
like I said,
at the end of the podcast episode, we'll add the audio there.
Just a little audio. That's
make it
hilarious.
The soundtrack. No, and then I created, speaking of, using different tools, I used Midjourney to create the, the cover page, the cover image of the song. And then, I actually created a profile on Apple Music and I published it. It was a good experience. Look,
That's awesome.
I like, yeah, I like playing around with stuff and the tools, and obviously it doesn't have too many views or listeners, but I enjoyed the process as well.
That's fantastic. I love it. My initial exploration in Suno, I was like, give me a heavy, because my son and I were playing with it, and he was like, what about a heavy metal song with puppies? And I go, okay. And so and it is a banger.
Was it you that did the Itsy Bitsy Little Spider heavy metal, or was that me? I think I did
I
that
think
with
that was
my
you,
kids.
bro.
Yeah, it came up with amazing lyrics. It was all like the itsy spitsy spider cries out at the rain, after he like climbs back up, and I was like, this is incredible. So yeah,
I did another one with my she was 7 at that time, and she was recently punished. We sent her to her room, and after the punishment, we started playing around. I'm like, I gave her the Chat GPT. I'm like, type into the Chat GPT your feelings, how you're feeling right now. And she was very angry, so she very angry prompts. And then we plugged those prompts into the Chat GPT, came out with lyrics. We plugged it into Suno, and the song was phenomenal, and it really, grabbed the essence of her anger at her parents and whatnot. And I'll share that with you as well. But
That's
I was
awesome.
like, yeah, it was like, wow, this tool is powerful. When you could create these powerful, emotional songs, out of nowhere, and kind of connect with the listener in that way. I was hooked. 100%. I was hooked.
Yeah, it calls back to what you said earlier about using adjectives, using those emotive words, and being able to get the LLMs to see that better, because you have that grasp of the English language in a capacity that others don't.
And I know you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons. I used to play in when I was younger, in high school and in middle school. And I think, now that once you mentioned it, it kind of clicked in my head. That itself is a certain skill set, right? Being able to imagine scenarios that are not there, that are not physically in front of you. Because using AI, I do think you kind of need an imagination as well, right? You're trying to create a world, right? You're trying to put something there that's not there, and I do think that the kids that gravitated towards Dungeons and Dragons and these other role playing games are also gonna excel in certain ways that people that don't have that experience. And that's my take. That's off the cuff, but I think that's gonna be a good skill to have.
I don't think it's wrong. I think that it's interesting because I recently went to a game conference, and there are a lot of creatives who are concerned by copyright issues, and they're upset by AI because they feel like, this is going to devalue my work and that kind of thing. I think in the long term, or at least my hope is that these same people and more creatives realize how much AI unlocks certain doors for them that were previously locked. I think it enhances creativity. I don't think it will replace what has gone before as much as people are afraid of, but I do think it will, like from a productivity standpoint, but also just from an enabling standpoint, allow people to evoke a set of emotions across an array of different media types that they haven't before. Like if I'm a visual artist, but I want to have a song that matches my art, well, beforehand I couldn't create that, but now I can with Suno, and so I think that long-term, these are very much creative tools. I think that we're going to see a lot more creativity with them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I don't think creatives have anything to worry. The word create means, just creating something new, right? It's bringing into this world something that hasn't existed. And if you understand how these models work, all they're doing is taking the past work and extrapolating, right? It's like, okay, we're trained on all this data from the internet. This is what we think that, what you want. but creative, it's new stuff, right? It's not based on the past, it's based on the future. I don't think they have anything to worry about.
It doesn't have the imagination. It lacks the imagination, like you just mentioned. It's trained on this data. It has a fixed set of information, and it can't see past that to generate new things. Really, it's only putting out what it knows.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when I speak to a layperson and they're like, "Oh, but what is AI?" Right? And I think in its essence, it's when you're, let's say, typing a message on your iPhone or phone, and you type in a word, you type in 2 words, and then there's an autocomplete, right? And it will try to predict what you're trying to say and then finish the sentence for you. And to me, that's what it is. It's taking what the data that it has based on the 2 words. It would predict, give it a probability of what you're trying to say, and offer you those solutions. And you say, yes, this is what I'm trying to say. You press return and send out the message. But it's gotten so good that the probability is almost 95% or 98% of what you're trying to get out of it. So I think that's in the end of the day, it's what it says. It's almost like an autocomplete.
Yeah. Well, Rosario, we want to thank you for coming on with us. We appreciated the talk. I thought this was pretty insightful and pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
You said AI is about the past, creativity is about the future. I love that. And that doesn't mean that AI can't help and shape our future, and we definitely expect that it will. But before we go, how would our audience, if they want to follow you, learn more about you, look into you, what should they look at? What should we follow? What should we promote in the comments of our YouTube video and that kind of thing?
Oh, sure. I'm pretty much all over social media. My LinkedIn profile is my name, Rosario Parlanti. I'm on X as Pinwhale, which is my tag name. I talk mostly about crypto and AI on X. On LinkedIn, I gear more towards real estate law, real estate investments, and the companies. I also invest in startups as well. So I try to promote the startups I invest in. But LinkedIn and X is my go-to.
Okay. We'll make sure to put those in the description, then look them up.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. It was a good conversation, and I'm sure we could talk more in the future.
Well, we want to thank again our guest today, Rosario Parlanti. We had a very fascinating and interesting conversation. If you liked what you saw and heard today, feel free to like and subscribe and find out more details about us and our guest here in the notes in the description of our YouTube video. And we will see you next time. Thank you.